Hello, folks. This is Brandon with the Mesa County Liberty Report, and I'm just putting together kind of a short video talking about how the Civics and Social Studies Forum went last night, and also talking about, why it's important, what it's all about, and trying to basically just bring people up to speed if they're not. And I'm going to go through how I feel like last night went in a little bit. First, I'm going to talk about Colorado law and how it works, just so you know, what part you have to play in it as a citizen, as a taxpayer, as a parent, as a grandparent, as, whoever you are watching this, students, So, really quick, let me get to this. Who determines what will be taught in Colorado schools? Now, what last night's presentation was about the state standards that are coming down. And the question that, we're asking, I guess, is who gets to determine how that's applied? Who gets to determine the curriculum and how much something's taught, or how heavily something's emphasized, or how do these standards get applied in the classroom? Now, in Colorado is a local, I'm reading this straight from Colorado's state website. Colorado is a local control state. That means that many pre-kindergarten through 12th grade public education decisions on issues such as curriculum, personnel, school calendars, graduation requirements, and classroom policy are made by the school districts and their local school boards. Okay. Which is great, right? That means that, the state of Colorado can put out standards. They put out, but they can't literally tell every local school board exactly how to apply that legally. And there's a lot of case law I've been reading up on that, local boards have won that court case when it comes down to it. So that's great news, right? No matter where you live, right? That you as a local citizen can be, and elect local leaders in that school board, or, be a part of a process to where you can have input, and you can, don't just feel like the state is just cramming everything down on you as a local citizen, and so that's awesome, right? I hope people understand that and know that that's part of your duty. I was reading some of this Civics 101, the stuff that is coming down from the standards. And this part's great. I'm going to read this part. In high school, they're going to describe how members of a civil society can impact public policy on local, state, national, or international issues by exercising their civic rights and responsibilities. For example, participating in primaries and general elections, protesting, contact with elected officials, petitions, attending public forums, or through initiatives and referenda, and evaluate opportunities for people to participate in and influence government through interest groups, social movements, for example, tactics and strategies of nonviolent resistance championed by Dr. Martin Luther King in response to the Jim Crow laws of that era or the indigenous land rights movement. Okay, so, they're learning that, hopefully, in school, that there are places where members of a civil society can impact public policy on local, state, and national or international issues. Well, that's what we're doing right here. That's why I do the Liberty Report, to be honest, because I want people to be more engaged and realize that the squeaky wheel gets the grease in local politics a lot of times. And if you show up and you input and you do your part, you don't feel so hopeless, but if you don't show up and you don't pay attention to what's happening locally, then it's all just happening without you. And, I've been doing this for a while, and it's been encouraging, to be honest, just seeing how there are times when we're able to input and see changes made. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad. And I'm going to read this next part. In Colorado, The standards are developed by Colorado teachers and go through a public feedback process before being approved by the Colorado State Board of Education. In Colorado, local school boards choose the curriculum for their schools. Okay. And then just one more part of this. The authority to determine the curriculum rests with the district, not individual teachers. Teachers as employees must carry out that curriculum and abide by any restrictions, and they do not have the right to use whatever teaching materials and methodologies they choose if contrary to school policy. So the local school board sets the policy, the curriculum, with the staff, and they work together on all this. And then once that's set in place, that's what's happening locally. And so that's how it works. And these meetings that are these were actually required. This is the public input on a local level, required sessions that they have for public to hear a presentation about what the standards are, to read up on it, and then to give input, whether through email, phone calls, or at the board meetings, giving public comment. Hopefully they're going to do a Q&A more tonight. And you get a chance to speak your piece, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So, so that's what the process is. And it should be completely, this shouldn't be like, because local boards have the control over this, I think like what last night should have been was, here's the standards. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about how this is going to be applied. What happens in first grade with this concept? What happens in fifth grade with this idea? Like, how does this get applied? And then people could actually start inputting about specific details, age groups, age ranges, topics, and then they could gather actual feedback from the community, from all sides of the issues, whatever you are. And then they would have something to go with, right, for community input. And so I'll just tell you right now, like being at the meeting, I missed the first part. So if the first part was better than what I'm describing, then tell me if you were there. But from the point I basically got there, the person running the meeting, or that was kind of doing the presentation, was basically just selling the standards to everybody and telling them why we need to do this, why we're doing this. And then, even having kids kind of speak for it. And then having, one kid came up and he said that he was going to do he was going to speak during public comment, but they had him come up and speak before public comment. So they put him out there, and he gave basically like an LGBTQ rally speech almost. And don't understand like why that has anything to do with, like, why is the school putting a kid out to give a speech like that? And what, like, that was his opinion, that was his story. He was telling about growing up and what he learned in high school, being around different people. And I'm not even trying to bash on him. Like I respect his right to speak and everything, but it just was like, I don't know why they had him do that. Like, that's not it was just like setting up. Basically the way it felt is, look, we're here to promote the standards. Here's some kids that are going to come out and promote the standards. And I'm not talking about the debate team, by the way. They didn't really talk about that. They just were talking about debate team, and it was kind of just cool. Like, so I'm not specifically that, but and this is why we need to follow the standards. This is what the standards are for. And then it was like, okay, now public comment. And if somebody had any questions or was going to stand up and do public comment, I saw a bunch of people just like cross their names off the list. and nobody wanted to speak. And then there was only like 5 of us that actually said anything. And it was just like, why? Well, it was set up, the way it was set up was like, if you have, basically here's the way it felt. I'll just tell you that. If you have any questions about this entire agenda of the state standards, it leans a certain direction. I'll just say it that way, right? If you have any issues, you are a bigot, you are evil, don't, you're uneducated. Like, that's the way the whole thing like was set up before public comment ever happened. From the school, the person at the school and the kids that they put up to talk about that. And it was like, so who's going to get up there and ask a question? Like, okay, so what are we going to talk about with first graders? Like, who's going to bring up the hot button topic of LGBTQ issues and say like, I don't know like how we're going to apply this because it's like all over the standards or constantly talked about, or how do we talk about it? How does it go in the classroom? What is the school going to leave for parents to talk about at what ages? Like all those kind of questions that parents might have. It's like nobody wanted to even say a word because you're already a bigot, an evil, horrible person just for wanting to like understand what's going on, like, and know what they're trying to actually say when they're trying to say it. That's the way it came across to me, and so I don't care. Like, I'll go speak about anything. And I did, I didn't rail about anything like that necessarily. Like I didn't, but, it just, I feel like the way that it was set up, it just crushed public input. And yeah, there was a lot of, controversy before the meeting. The local Democrat Party said the board's they were out spreading misinformation, right? The board's gonna put in this, that other patriotic curriculum. You have to come to this meeting and like restore the balance, and the League of Women Voters and all these groups just started sharing this, and it was a lie and not true at all. And, got a bunch of people riled up, and that was interesting. Because there was nothing about that in this meeting whatsoever. Like, it was literally going over the state standards, getting public input, and it was a state required forum. Take that for what it's worth. You go to this meeting tonight and tell me what you think it was about or how it went. That was just my perspective on it. After thinking about it later, like I really sat back and I was like, why did they have that kid go up and speak for this district? Like, it didn't, why? Like, what's the point of that? If he was going to just speak during public comment, why bring him up as part of your presentation? And why only bring up a kid that has that point of view? Why not bring up kids that have other points of view, or don't 100% agree with that kid? Why select kids to put out to speak a certain message instead of just, if you're going to put kids out there, which you shouldn't in this, like the way that there shouldn't be, that. But let's say you are going to, then let's have a diversity of thought. We're all about diversity here. We're not going to put out a diversity of thought about the subjects. We're just going to put out kids that will promote what we want them to promote. That's the way it looked to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. All right. So that's that. So there was very little public comment, and there was no Q&A, and the meeting just ended. Wait, I thought we were here for public comment. I thought we were here for public input. I thought we were here because that's why, why are we doing this meeting, is so that the local public can interact about the curriculum that's about to be inputted. No, it was like a little bit of public comment, kind of discouraging people to even want a public comment, and then no Q&A, nothing. And I was just like, it's over? Like, why? Like, why not actually have people engage with this and ask questions, let them ask questions, and why not create a back and forth so we can understand, like, because you can only do so much in a public comment, right? You can just say what you want to say for 3 minutes. You can't go like, how does this look in this class with this group? What would you say, or how would they teach it? You know, what about this? Are they going to teach this? Are they going to add this? Is this objective? What happened? Are we going to add this part of history or whatever, right? There was no back and forth. There was no real, it was barely an opportunity for public to input. And then it was just meeting over. We're done. So I was very frustrated. I think that was like, whoever set that meeting up the way that they did it, whoever organized it and planned it, or however, I just think they abused that position instead of creating an open environment that's inclusive of everyone and all opinions and all the local community, and allowing people to input, allowing people to have discussion. Like, that's what it should have been. And then you could have everybody talking, asking questions, going back and forth and understanding what's happening. And then you would gather valuable information that way, rather than, this is why we're doing it. We're not going to take questions. So that's how it went. And from my perspective, and I don't have a whole lot, like, I can't keep going on about, like, this video can't be too long. What I really have to say is, like, you know, if you don't show up at stuff like this, if you're concerned about it and you never show up and you never input and you don't send emails and you don't make calls and you don't meet board members for coffee or the superintendent, and if you're not involved actually on the local level where you have the ability to be involved, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to say, because then everything just happens without you. And whoever is there, whoever is talking, whoever is putting their perspective. I had a kid walk up to me after the meeting and thank me for saying something, and said it made him think, you know, just because I got up there to speak, even though, you know, people are looking at me like, what's he gonna say? He's gonna, you know, he's part of that group or whatever, right? Whatever people are thinking when I go up there to say something, he's one of them. And he said, thank you. He came up to me and thanked me. And it's like, so if people show up, you can make a difference, right? Like, if you get involved, and if it's your kids and you're not involved and you're not stepping up to the plate, like, I don't know what to say. Like, that doesn't mean you got to make it to everything. I can't, nobody can. It just means, like, especially really important things, try, do your best. Like, I had to rearrange my whole schedule today and yesterday to do this, to make it. I'm even rearranging my schedule at work so that I can make this video I don't have time to make. Like, because I think this is important and it matters. So, and then the last thing I'm just going to say, you know, I'll do a bigger video about, like, all of the standards that came down that actually talk about it. Yeah, but this one, it's just, we have tonight, Orchard Mesa Middle School, November 16th, yep, at 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Get there early because that room filled up pretty good. And, you know, if you want a public comment, just understand, you don't have to say anything extravagant. You don't have to be some amazing speaker. You don't even have to be super controversial, like, but you can go up there and just say something simple that concerns you. And then that's going in the public record. The committee is going to have those comments. They're going to say the public, you know, this was brought up by the public. So, like, you go up there and say something that matters, right, to you, whatever that is. And try to get specific and try to read, you know, some of the information so you can be more specific and talk about your concerns. And then if they do Q&A, let's do it. Like, really, you know, they should. Then afterwards, send emails, you know, call, board members, anybody that you feel necessary, and put your voice into the conversation. Put your perspective down. You are a citizen that has a right to do that, especially locally. I mean, I just read you the law in Colorado. I'm just encouraging people to get involved, say what you need to say, and make your voice heard.